Hey everybody, welcome back to Two Nerds in a Podcast. Today we are talking about a new movie that came out during Christmas for whatever strange reason. And that is Nosferatu. We have talked about Nosferatu here on the podcast before when we were talking about Universal's movie history, particularly with Dracula, because if you've ever read or seen Dracula and then watched the original Nosferatu, but even this one, you'll realize they're almost the same movie. Like
Basically.
Nosferatu is Dracula. Like it's a nice like fan fiction off of Dracula. And so it's got a lot of the same themes. Obviously, it has to do with vampires. And this particular one, oh my gosh, what was the director's name? Robert Eggers is literally on a roll with the types of movies he's making. I was very excited for Nosferatu, which I said I'm not a scary movie person, but you make it a gothic
Oh,
romance,
yes.
and I'm in. I'm like all in. So good. This movie is really long. It's like 3 hours, right?
I think it's like two and a
2 hours
half, two
and
and a half,
50
something like that.
minutes.
It's pretty long though.
Yeah, it's a very long movie. The pace, I would say if you're a fast-paced movie person, you're gonna hate this.
See, okay, I didn't think that the pace was too bad. I am
I
definitely
didn't think so
like a
either.
faster paced movie person, but I think like for me, it really like kind of gets you in right away. So it's like the
Mhm.
pacing to me wasn't actually too terrible. That's what I was worried about because it is like,
Yeah.
a time period movie and it
Mhm.
the pacing could be slow, but I didn't think it was too bad actually.
Yeah, that was the one thing, like, because I saw it when kind of sort of when it first came out. I think I saw it like the middle of January. I don't know. I saw it in theaters with one of my friends, and I remember before I had even seen it, a lot of people were like, "Yeah, it's kind of on the slow side." So I was like, "Oh, okay." But to me, it didn't seem any slower than like if any of you have ever seen Crimson Peak with Tom Hiddleston. Um, I think their pace is very similar. I think Nosferatu definitely is more, I would say, more talking than a movie like Crimson Peak. Like, I feel like Crimson Peak had a lot of scarier imagery and kind of like more dramatic music, but Nosferatu had this, like, kind of, which I think was the point, like creeping in the shadows kind of story where you're constantly following around Lily Rose Depp's character, and you're following her in her like regular life, but like as the movie progresses you feel like the shadows are like closing in
Mhm.
on you, which is how she feels as well. So I didn't think the pacing was terrible. I didn't There's definitely some movies where I will be watching them and I will be about to fall asleep,
Yeah.
but this movie wasn't that for me. Like, I remember when I watched Gladiator 2, I saw that movie twice in theater, and when I went the second time, I was a little bit tired and I did fall asleep. It dragged in the like towards the middle, and I fully took like a nap, and then I went with my friend Christine to go see that, and I was like, I totally fell asleep like twice in that movie, and she was like, same. So it just had like certain points that dragged. I found this Nosferatu didn't have that. Like, there was so many compelling things happening
Mhm.
all at the same time, and also because Lily Rose Depp's character and Nicholas Holt's character are together at the beginning of the movie, and then he goes on a business trip, and so they're separated. So we're following both of their stories and how their involvement with Nosferatu is. I felt like the pace was good in bouncing back and forth between both of
Yeah,
them.
I agree. But also I felt like I don't know, I felt like because like the movie was so like ominous and I think
Mm-hmm.
that I mean, listen, I'm no cinema buff here, okay? But I think just like the overall presence of the movie is like kind of what kept me
Mm-hmm.
entertained and like kept me
Mm-hmm.
not like falling asleep. Although I do
Yes.
love like a good time period movie, and the coloring of that movie, just everything,
Ugh,
beautiful. Oh, I wish I could just
it was
roam around in a
so
big poofy dress all day.
yeah, it was so
Mhm.
cohesive as a film. You can tell that not only did Robert Eggers have a lot of passion for this movie, but all of the actors had a lot of passion for the movie. And obviously, like every single costume designers, makeup, hair, like everybody was so on board with the strong
Oh,
Victorian era theme in this movie that it really like came together. So like 10 out of 10 for aesthetics of this
yeah.
movie.
Oh,
Like it was
wonderful.
beautiful. I love the blue
Yes.
tinge throughout the movie because again, it gives it that creepy feeling without trying to be like in your face about it being creepy.
Yeah, it kinda, like, leaves it to where it's, like, in the background, like you were saying, like, there's always, like, a shadow. That's why I
Hmm.
like when movies do that, like, especially ones that are, like,
Yeah.
not where the pacing is slower, it like, the ominous, like,
Hmm.
the coloring, the creepiness just keeps you kind of, like, involved, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Words are really hard.
Yeah. No, that's no, I get you. And I like that it wasn't a black and because the original Nosferatu
Yeah.
is black and white, like many of
Wait,
the
have you
films
seen
back in
the
the day.
original Nosferatu? Because I have
I've
not.
I've only seen like clips. My main exposure to the original Nosferatu movie, which I feel like is a lot of millennials
I already know
exposure,
what you're gonna
is the
say.
scene in
I was like, I already know where
SpongeBob
this is
where
going.
he's like Nosferatu, and it's literally him switching the giant light switch back and forth. So like obviously I've seen him. As far as like clips from the movie, I've seen little things here and there, but I have never seen the original. I don't know if like now if you can actually watch the original because the whole lawsuit with the is it Bram Stoker's wife, because technically the people who wrote and created the original Nosferatu film um like they girl bossed a little too close to the sun and it was a little too close to
Yeah.
Dracula, and it also came out like I think within the same
Oh.
year or within like I mean like it was like truly like riding on the coattails of Dracula, and um Bram Stoker's wife was like no, that's copyright, no, I don't think so, and she took him to court and she won. And so, as far as I know, most of the Nosferatu stuff was destroyed. Obviously, some of it has survived. So, I'm sure maybe we can find it on YouTube or somewhere on the internet, but I have not seen the actual original film. I just know that it was basically like when you send somebody like a school paper that you wrote and you're like you can have this but you need to change
Yeah.
it, and all they change is like the font. Like that's what Nosferatu was to Dracula. So no, I haven't really seen any of the original stuff, but I have like read quite a bit about it. So there is a lot of like it was like a big no in Hollywood at the time because like they Dracula was such a huge success, and then they were like, "Oh, look, we made like another movie, but it's not Dracula, and it's not by Universal. It's by us." And Universal went, "No. No, you can't do that." Mm-mm. Um but yeah, so SpongeBob is my biggest exposure to to the original Nosferatu. So I think it is pretty impressive that Robert Eggers was able to really like I feel like the marketing for this movie was really good. It wasn't super in your face, and I do like that in all the interviews with him and the rest of the cast. Every time the SpongeBob thing is like brought up, they're just like taking it in stride. Some of them like know exactly what you're talking about, and others are like, I have never seen that
Oh
SpongeBob
my god.
reference.
That's like the first thing that pops in my head when I hear like
Yeah,
Nosferatu.
yeah. I also loved that like the meme that was going around that was like, who else thought his actual name was Nosferatu, and not Count Orlok?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And I'm like, yeah, same. I mean, SpongeBob calls him Nosferatu. What else am I supposed to think? SpongeBob's
Yeah,
always right, right?
like, listen, everything is a SpongeBob reference, so you know.
Absolutely. All of life is a SpongeBob reference. We are all just living in the giant Weenie Hut Jr.
The world is just Weenie Hut Jr.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I was very impressed with this movie. I I don't think it was scary necessarily. I feel like again with the marketing, they really hit it where they didn't advertise it as a scary movie. They did advertise it because obviously it's the more traditional view of a vampire. So there's going to be death. There's going to be dark scenes. I wasn't expecting like a naked Count Orlok, but we have that.
But yeah, naked account Orlok was not on my bucket
Yeah,
list, but
no.
it was there.
I also really like that Robert Edgars had it framed, the prosthetic for Count Orlok's Ding Dong, had it framed and gave it to Nicholas Holt as like a wrap gift. Um, so Nicholas Holt just has that in his house somewhere. But I also like too because Nicholas said that, like Robert had it like shipped to him, and the frame broke, so he actually had to take it into his local like framing place and get a new frame for it. Luckily, I feel like because I worked in a custom frame shop for 4 5 years, and honestly, after a while, you just kind of block out whatever's coming into the frame shop because you're literally there to like frame it and then give it
Yeah.
back. So, when he was like, "Yeah, the framing person was pretty cool about it," I was like, "Yeah, depending like what city you're in too, like you see some really weird
Yeah, they're probably
stuff.
used to it by now.
So you just kind of like don't ask questions and you just frame it. Like it's not yours. You don't have to stare at it for very long. You get to give it
Although
back.
that one I would be
Like
like,
I
am I is this feels wrong. Just to be like looking at it in
yeah,
the eyes.
I would be like there's a story here and I'm going to need you to tell me what it is before we like move
Yeah, like I have
along.
to make eye contact
Um
with this thing while I'm like framing it. So I need to like I need a
yeah.
little backstory.
Yeah, luckily it was like it was just the frame that needed replacing, so they probably didn't have to like take the glass out or anything. They could just slip the old frame off and put the new one on. But yeah, it would have been one of those moments that you look at this piece and you basically tell everybody that you work with, I need you to look at this because I need you to know what I deal with on a daily.
Yeah.
Because I've done that with a couple of things where most of the time it's something that's like really cool. Like one time I framed a poster that was signed by my husband, Pedro Pascal.
How'd you not steal it? I would
Yeah,
have been like, I don't know where it went. That's crazy.
girl, this poster was signed by everybody on the Mandalorian cast.
What? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
I
it
would have
was
lost my mind.
so cool. I probably stared at it for a good 15 minutes and then my boss was like, so we know if the center, which is where Pedro signed, he goes, if the center is missing, we know where it went. And I was like, yeah, that's very true. But yeah, it was so it's like super cool things. Like especially once I got out of the frame shop, Diego would be like, "Hey, come in here. Something with Pedro Pascal's signature," and then so I'd go look. But yeah, it would have been one of those things where like I need you to come look at this really weird thing that I'm framing, or it would have been one of those things where you're like framing something really weird and you're trying to do it quickly because it's weird and you don't like want anybody to see it, and then everybody and their grandma happens to walk into the frame shop that day as you're trying to frame it and you're like, ugh, okay, I guess everybody knows what
I
it
guess
is now.
everybody knows our secret here.
But yeah, so back to the actual movie. I would like to make a blanket statement that every actor in this movie is
Oh,
phenomenal.
the casting, 100 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
100 out of 10. So good.
Yeah,
Like you have
every chef
Bill
kiss. So good.
Skarsgård as Which honestly, at
Mm-hmm.
this point, I feel like he can
And,
only play like creepy characters.
which is kind of tragic because he is very attractive. Like, I understand. I love the meme that was going around that was like, "There's a Skarsgård for the girlies and a Skarsgård for the creepies," which is true. But I feel like Bill Skarsgård he is also very attractive. I think because he's just a Skarsgård in
Mhm.
general. He's not the one that has to be like muscular and super fit all the time, but I think he's really cute. But then he does the weird Pennywise like eye thing, and I'm like, oh,
You're like, please
ugh,
don't ever do that again.
don't ever do that. But I did learn. I watched an interview with him. He's a cat
Oh,
person, and I was like, oh,
we
10
love
out of
that.
10. He loves a cat, but he likes cats over dogs, and I'm like, oh, nope, that's where you lost me. Um, equally, they should be
Equal.
equal.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's super good. His voice for Count Orlok is the right amount of creepy, the right amount of slow. Like Count Orlok enunciates
Mhm.
everything. He talks very slow. He talks it always feels like no matter who he's talking to, it almost always feels like he's like talking right in your ear. And you just want to go, ugh.
Yeah.
um
And he like breathes out because he's like, like, with like
Yeah,
every
like,
breath.
I love that they went yeah, they're like, "This is a, thousands of year old vampire," and he sounds like,
Yes.
he sounds like he's got some COPD happening because he's thousands of years old, like, he is not Edward
Right.
Cullen running
He was
around
a
as a youthful 17-year-old who sparkles in the
yeah.
sun, like, Count Orlok is a true old-fashioned vampire. And I do love that they went with the approach of they wanted it to feel because people used to believe vampires were
Mhm.
real. Like that was a real fear that people had. So he really wanted to like sink into that feeling of how people felt when they actually believed vampires were real.
Mhm.
And I think that came across very successfully in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, Bill Skarsgård is like super creepy as Orlok.
Yeah.
Um,
The big spindly
oh,
fingers, the kind of hunched, but also like he just like towers over
mm-hmm.
everybody too. Like anytime he's standing near anybody, he's just like towering this big, like hunky, but not in a sexy way.
Not at all.
Like man, not in a sexy way at all. Like if you think it is a sexy way, I have questions, and one of them is, do you talk to a therapist about this?
It's like here's the
Um,
thing. If it's like teetering on that line though. Like I feel like with this movie
Absolutely.
because it's like a dark romance type of situation,
Mhm.
but then like Orlok is like truly an eyesore to look at. But it's like imagine
Yeah.
though. Imagine if he wasn't 1,000-year-old vampire. I'm just saying.
Imagine if he looked like a 20-something-year-old man.
Yeah.
Um, but I also feel like that's kind of the point for especially, like, original vampire stories is they like, to us who are not in that situation with that vampire, he looks like a crusty, dusty vampire, right? But to, Lily Rose's character, for her, she's never even seen him, but he is this strange voice from across the land that yearns for her, that wants her, that want like as she is, that she is this perfect being. And so I think they really wanted to invoke the feeling of being
Mhm.
wanted, which for her in the beginning of that movie, that's her crisis, is she feels like she's going to be alone
Mhm.
forever, and that nobody's going to want her, that she's broken, and then she calls out into the night for somebody, anybody, which was her mistake. When you say anybody,
That means
that literally means
anybody.
that freaking anybody, it doesn't matter. For her to she wanted to feel wanted, and Orlok's like, I got you, babe. I'll want you. I will cross all the seas for you. and I will get you
I got you. I
eventually.
got you,
And
girl.
he does make it across the sea. But yeah, he's just like, bet I got you. Nicholas Holt in this movie. So I like Nicholas Holt as an actor. I loved him. I think my favorite movie of his is Warm Bodies, where he's the zombie, the little zombie boy. He's so cute as a little. He's just like the cutest little bean. And there was another meme floating around that was like Nicholas Holt is the Scream King of horror movies. And he screams a lot in this movie. Like, I mean, his poor character Thomas is just he's really
He
going
is
through
going
it.
through it.
And he doesn't know why he's going through it. He's just like he's trying to get he wants to get a good job so that he can marry the love of his life and take care of her and eventually have kids. Like the normal Victorian man step. He just wants to be happy with his wife and he wants that promotion at work, and of course work is dangling the carrot and they're like, "We have a buyer overseas who's not going to travel here, but he wants us to pick like a castle for him, and but you got to go in person and make the deal." Nicholas Holt is like, I
I
guess
guess I
whatever I
gotta.
have to do. Yeah, and then the poor boy gets trapped in Count Orlok's castle, and he's just fighting for his life the whole time.
He's like, why am I
Like
here?
he just,
What happened?
yeah, and that was the other interesting thing too, is because like Count Orlok, his main thing, like for vampires and stuff, is to like compulsion, is to make you be in love with them, to make you do their bidding and all of things like that. And so you kind of see it in their back and forth when Nicholas Holt's Thomas is just like, please just sign these papers so I can leave. And Count Orlok is like, no, you must stay the night. And he's like, but I don't
I want to
wanna. I have
go home.
a room at the inn. Please just let me leave. And he doesn't. He like doesn't he fall? Is it? He doesn't fall to his death. Obviously, he survives. But I'm pretty sure he fell out like a window at some
Mhm.
point. So he's really living through it. He just wants to get back to his wife, who in turn is having her own terrible time.
Right, they're both just
Dealing
struggling
with
on opposite ends.
Yeah, they're just both in distress for like 3/4 of
Yeah,
this
pretty much.
movie. And it is all Count Orlok's doing. But I do love like at one point when she Lily Rose,
I
what's
think
her
it's
name?
Ellen.
Ellen. When Ellen's like, I I would like I understand if you don't want me and I'm broken and I'm terrible and like I understand if you want to run away, you should run away. And he's like, I will love you forever and ever and ever and ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Thomas, you're so cute.
It's so
I love you,
beautiful.
Thomas. Oh, he's so cute. And I love their chemistry in this
Mhm.
movie because you can tell, especially Lily Rose Depp has such a good like facial
She
expression
really does.
range in this
Yeah,
movie.
and she's beautiful too, which
Oh my
helps.
gosh, stunning. Yeah, she's absolutely stunning, but she has kind of that same thing that her dad does, where they have like the emotion behind the
Mhm.
eyes, so really feel like constantly in the back of her mind is Count Orlok, just like sitting in there, like controlling her from afar. And it just like that with Nicholas Holt's cute little innocent little puppy eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't handle you two.
You
You two are
stop
just
it right now.
oh, I just want to squish them. They're so cute. But like 10 out of 10 for that pairing. Absolutely stunning. Wardrobe for Ellen. Oh my gosh, every dress she wore in this movie, I'm like, I
Oh
want to
my
wear
god,
that.
same.
Can I have
That's
that?
why I just like I love me a good Victorian era movie
Yeah,
because the wardrobes are always I just want to run around in a beautiful dress like that in my castle. I want to do that. I want to do
absolutely.
that.
Next character I want to talk about is Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, Friedrich. First of all, Aaron Taylor Johnson is one beautiful chef kiss. I love. He's gorgeous. his eye color, for me anyways, in this weird like blue tinted movie
Mhm.
are even more stunning than they regularly are. Like he just has beautiful eyes. I really liked his character because I feel like his character in particular was kind of a stereotypical Victorian man where like he wants to be there for his best friend and is really happy that his best friend has found somebody to marry and to be in love with and they're really cute together. But the second his best friend has to go on a business trip and then is like, "Can you like please watch my wife? She's having a really rough time. I need you to like house her for while I'm gone. And then I will come and collect her when I am back." And he's like, "I got you, bro. Like, no worries." And then Ellen starts going a lot of
Yeah, a lot
crazy.
of crazy.
A lot of crazy and like freaky stuff starts happening and he is just trying so hard to hold it together, but he's such a family man that he really just wants to like kick Ellen out of the house and be like, I need you to go elsewhere, like you can't stay here
You need to
anymore."
calm down if you're gonna be here, girl.
Yeah, yeah, and he tries, like, so hard to, like, be I can like, his struggle to be understanding is both so cute, but also so heartbreaking because he ends up with the most, at least in my opinion, like, the most tragic ending for everybody in this
Mhm.
movie. Um, if you're this far into the podcast, I assume you know we're gonna talk spoilers.
Spoilers! You should know
We
this by
always talk
now.
spoilers. Yeah, it's also been, like, on streaming for a while already, so you really should know this, but, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, Friedrich, loses his entire family and then loses his own life as well, so everybody in his family dead. His wife, his 2 little girls, and him dead by the before Orlok even
Yeah.
reaches the shore. Everybody is dead. But he tries like so hard to be understand because like his wife and Ellen are best friends, and they have been best friends basically since Ellen moved to their little town. And he's just like, okay, this is my wife's best friend. I have to like her to like some degree. And his wife is always like, you know, we need to be there to support her, and she's having a really hard time. Remember, and he's trying. You can tell that man is trying so hard, and then he just like snaps about like I don't know halfway through the movie, and you're like, oh
Oh,
no.
oh no.
And he like, and then that's when they like start getting like doctors involved to check
Mhm.
on her because like Ellen's having these weird, like, she almost looks like she's possessed. I mean, I guess she kind of is. Like, Orlok is, in a sense, possessing her. So she's having episodes and it's freaking everybody out. Again, Victorian era, so still pretty deeply religious. So they're like, she's possessed by a demon. And then in enters, which I totally forgot he was in this movie,
Willem
Willem
Dafoe,
Dafoe's character.
yeah. I love him.
The second he appeared, I was like, "Oh my god, he's in this movie!" Honestly, William Dafoe is the best, like, crazy,
No, he
kooky,
really is.
Victorian era
He really
man.
is.
Like, and he just brings that, like, level of craziness to every role he has, and I feel like in this particular one, like, he just, like, knocked it out of the park. Like, he's so good. First of all, he's hilarious. One of my favorite characters in this movie. But he just has like this like his emotion behind his eyes is like a little just like a little off your rocker. It's a little you can see the
Yeah.
crazy. See it. And I like that the one doctor was like, you need to go see what's his name? Albin Eberhard von
Yeah, something like
Franz.
that.
And he's like, you need to go see Albin. He does like a certain kind of medicine. I believe they use the term like he's like a doctor, but he also got like kicked out of like the not the academy, but like board of doctors. Like he's no longer certified. They like took away all his certification, but he still
Yeah, he's just a
practices.
silly goose.
And yeah, and then like you get to his little like office slash house, and he's into the supernatural. So that's why everyone's like, he's a doctor. Yeah, he had an official title at one point. He doesn't hold that title anymore, and it's because he's into the supernatural and the occult. And so I do like his first meeting with Ellen. He like instantly realizes that she is like possessed, but not necessarily by like an actual
Mhm.
demon. He's like, this is something else, and he is the one that figures out it's a vampire, and that like the end of days is nigh, and that they go through all the lore and stuff with William Defoe's character. And it's just he's so
He
funny.
is.
I was like, I know this is supposed to be a scary movie and we're supposed to be like serious, but Willem Dafoe's character is just too funny. I can't. And I love that he like, even though like the other doctors and stuff, they're all like, he's a little cuckoo, he's a little crazy. But he has like the most compassion towards Ellen. And I think that's what helps with Friedrich and trying to be understanding and helpful towards
Yeah.
Ellen is he sees the professor and he's like, okay, I need to like chill out. I need to take a chill pill and everything is gonna be fine. It'll be great. And it's definitely not fine or great later. But he again, Friedrich really
He
tries
was
to
trying
just
his best.
so hard. He was trying so hard, and I was devastated when they killed off his two little girls.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
sad.
it's pretty fucked up. But then again,
Uh, yeah, yeah. So it was bound to happen, unfortunately. I also really like too because this was during like plague
mhm.
times. So I guess I was who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Wyatt. Because we were talking about this, and I didn't like I knew a lot of people like the common quote unquote common knowledge is that the plague was passed around via rat.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of rats in this
Lots of
film.
rats.
Um Lots of rats. It turns out like it actually wasn't rats. I believe it was the fleas on the rats. But I guess back in the day, as kind of like a war tactic, they would pack a boat full of rats and then set it off to sail into enemy territory. So that when it like rammed into the shipping docks of the like enemy territory, then there would be a bunch of rats and they would spread disease that way and kill off population. So they showed that in this movie, and I thought that was very interesting. I also like the fact that it was the boat that Nosferatu, that Count Orlok was on. I'm confusing myself. Um, but like that's how Count Orlok arrived in their little town was on a boat full of rats.
That's
Like that
befitting.
that was what yeah, it was very fitting. And it was like a really like bad omen that really like kicked the town into high gear of realizing that something is very, very wrong and that it's about to get a
Yeah,
whole
it's
lot
about to be
worse.
wronger.
Yeah, it's about to be real bad. But I thought that was like a cool little detail of like historical accuracy.
We
Um,
love a good historical accuracy in the movie.
yeah, we love little history tidbits in
That is
there.
also crazy though that
Um,
they actually like would do that in real life. IRL.
yeah, that's really
Yeah.
scary.
Imagine
I
just like
mean,
a boat full of rats coming your way. Like,
can you imagine if you worked at like the shipping dock and then you just see this boat heading for you and you're like, okay, they're gonna like pull up and park,
just
right? And then it just like rams straight into the pier, blows a hole in the hull of the ship, and then just rats pouring out like no
it'd be so
tomorrow.
crazy. I
It would be so scary. I would like I'm not even like a super religious person, but I'd be like, the devil is
right,
here.
like that's not
The devil is here. The end is
I mean, we pretty much covered all I can think of. So, I mean, the music was really the
Yes.
soundtrack is good. It's very,
The soundtrack is very good.
like I mean, because it's such a creepy movie, um, it had a
Yeah.
lot of, like, very ominous music, but I thought it was
Mhm.
which is great. I love that. We love that.
Yeah. Yeah, music very much set the tone for this movie. I feel like the the music was, to me anyways, was very subtle and that it really was truly like background
Mhm.
music.
Yeah, it was really
Like they didn't
subtle.
some yeah, some movies, especially like action adventure, the music is like right at the forefront and it makes you anytime you hear that song associate it with the movie. This one again with like a lot of what is happening in this movie it really like
Mhm.
moved in the
I was gonna say,
shadows.
yeah.
Um it really amplified the creepiness. It didn't try to force it to be creepy. It really just like took what was already there and really like amped it up a lot. So music really good. The um oh my gosh, what is the word? Like all the like the noises. So like Orlok breathing, the way he walks, everybody's footsteps, the cackle of fires, like all of that kind of like I guess white noise in the background too amplify the creepiness. Like when we're in Orlok's castle, everything is very cold and very
Mhm.
dark, and he does have a roaring fire at one point, so you've got the cackle of the fire, plus he's got, like, his creepy voice going on, and he's trying to compulse Nicholas Holt's character, Thomas, to kind of do what he wants and take him to, Thomas's wife. Unfortunately, Thomas doesn't understand why, like, Count Orlok wants to, like, come to, his I think they're supposed to be in Germany, if I remember correctly. He's just like, I mean, we have a castle. It's not as nice as the one you have here for sure, but like the kind of ambiance within the movie really like amplifies the emotions and the kind of creepiness that is always in the background. So 10 out of 10 for all of
Mhm.
that. I also the AMC theater on Universal City Walk had some of the costumes and the tomb,
What?
like Count Orlok's coffin on display. So the coffin on display, for one, is
Oh,
huge.
I bet.
It was giant.
I mean, he's a big
But it's
boy.
actually
He's a
really
big boy.
he is he is a big boy. Um, and it's weird because like I had seen that before I had seen the movie, so like seeing it in like full light I'm like, okay, cool. It's a coffin. It is really cool design. Like it's got a cool design, and I really wanted the popcorn bucket version of it, but I wasn't fast enough. Um, but seeing it like in person and then seeing it in the lighting in the
Mhm.
movie in particular just made it look that much creepier. And then like especially when Thomas like opens the coffin and like Orlok is like in there I'm like, bruh, you need to close that lid and
Yeah,
run for your
get the fuck out
life.
of there. What are you doing?
Yeah. Don't be peeking at the vampire in the coffin, okay? We don't do that. Don't do that. You die. Um,
Let him be.
but yeah, and yeah, let him be. And then the costumes, I know we've already said, but so the one thing I love about time period costumes in particular is there's always so much detail
Mhm.
in all of the costumes. They had Nicholas Holt. I'm trying to think who else they had now. Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think they had Willem Dafoe's costume as well. They had a lot of the men's costumes, and I think they had um, Ellen's like white chemise dress, I believe. Um, but even in just like the men's costume alone, like the very nice stitching, all their costumes were wool. So very like thick fabric, very smooth, very nice, like so much detail. I always applaud particularly the costuming department and the hair department on timepiece movies, because man, the
Oh
detail that
yeah.
they have to put into all that is
But
crazy.
it's so worth it though.
Absolutely. It came across on film so beautifully. Like every time I see any of the stills from this movie, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, that's absolutely amazing." I also encourage anybody to listen to almost any interview with the director, Robert Eggers, about this movie, because the way he explains things, I'm like, you have such like the most perfect brain for movies like this. Because the amount of like detail that he wants, but also just like some of the effects he has. Like, I know there's at one point where Ellen is like standing at the window and she's like bathed in moonlight and she's like basically talking with Count Orlok, even though he's not there. He's like talking from afar. But every time the curtain moves, it shows his Orlok's shadow, his like silhouette, but only in the
Mm,
curtain.
mm-hmm.
And I remember I was watching an interview with Robert and he was like, we wanted to kind of gently move the viewer's eye to the curtain so that you noticed it. So that's where like the sound effects and stuff. He goes, I didn't want it to be loud, like a curtain like whipping open, because that's not what it was doing. But he goes, we had to make it loud enough to kind of draw your attention to it. So I love his subtlety in this movie has such a big impact in making it extra creepy.
Yeah. And that is what makes a movie great is the attention to detail. Also,
Hmm.
I will say, I do want to add this.
Hmm.
I think that they did a really good job with like just enough jump scare
Oh,
and
hmm.
just enough like gore and blood. Like
Yeah.
just like the perfect amount to where it wasn't like right, like it's not a scary movie. I mean, I guess it technically is, but it isn't. Um, and it's not like a horror movie, but again, like it is, but it isn't. But it's not like super gory where that's like the main, factor of the movie. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of
It's not like a Nightmare on
yeah, yeah,
Elm
yeah,
Street
yeah.
or a Friday the 13th where it's just like blood
Yeah, and it's
everywhere.
also not like a scary movie where like every other scene is like a jump scare.
Yes.
But that's another thing they
Yes.
did really well, especially with like the jump scares. Um,
Hmm.
is like the sound effects and it just chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. I'm really bad at words, but
Yeah.
chef's kiss is all I gotta say to that.
Yeah. Definitely a highly recommended if you like. It's funny because again, I'm not a big horror person, but my one friend that wanted to go, she is a scary movie person, and I was like, hey, you want to go see Nosferatu? And she was like, I thought you didn't like scary movies, and I was like, I don't, but honestly, if it's about vampires, I'm
Yeah,
in.
down.
Like, that's like the one, like vampires and Frankenstein are like my two supernatural creatures of choice. So typically, if you put either of those in a movie or a TV show, I'm gonna watch it, even if it's scary. So I highly recommend if you're a more of a gothic
Mhm.
horror versus just like flat out horror. Very good timepiece movie. I would think I would have to rate it like an I would say maybe like a 8.5, 9 out of 10. Only because I don't know how often I'm going to rewatch it, so that's why it's not a 10 out of 10.
Mhm. I could definitely see myself rewatching it. Um, I would say probably like a good solid like 8 out of 10.
Yeah, yeah, super good. And I believe I just want to look something up real quick. Okay, yeah. So if you've never seen anything by Robert Eggers, I highly recommend his filmography in general. He did a movie called The Northman, which is about Vikings. Stunning movie. Like his historical based films, which I think most of his stuff is just like chef kiss. He's such a like detailed director. I have words. You know what I
Same thing.
mean. Um, yeah, I do know, like, in his future things of directing, um, he's directing a werewolf film,
Oh.
so I'll be really interested to see that, and apparently he's also rumored, I don't know how true it is, of doing a Labyrinth sequel,
Ooh.
which yeah, I was like, "That's a bit out of left field," but I feel like he would do a very good job. And also maybe bring like a new element to the Labyrinth movies
Mhm.
or movie. There's only one. Um, but yeah, so I'm excited to see his future filmography because I think he's a very stunning, like, he has a amazing production happening in all of his movies. So it'd be very exciting to see what else he does.
We'll be looking forward to it.
Yes. Do we have any final thoughts?
If
Anything
you haven't
else
seen this
we want
movie,
to
it's
add?
on Peacock, so go watch it. That's where I watched it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, and if you have seen it, tell us what you think in the comments. Or can you comment on Spotify? You can, right? Okay.
Yes, you can comment on Spotify. You can comment on Spotify and on YouTube. I don't know what's happening over in Apple Podcasts because I've never. The only time I've ever looked at Apple Podcast was to put our podcast on Apple Podcasts, so I don't know what's happening over there. But you can comment on YouTube and Spotify. So leave us your comments down below. Also, if you've seen this movie and you have any other recommendations based on it, let us know. I do eventually in the future would love to talk about Crimson Peak in detail because I absolutely love that movie. Again, another gothic horror, super good. It has Tom Hiddleston and Mia. Oh my gosh, what is her name? Hold on. She was in Alice in Wonderland as Alice.
I am so bad with actors' names.
Mia Wasikowska.
I would have never got
She's
that.
got a
I
really
would have
weird
never
last
got that.
name. She was in the live action Alice in Wonderland movies with Johnny Depp. But it has her. It has Jessica Chastain and Charlie Hunnam. So it has a really good cast as well. So we'll talk about that in the future. So make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening so that you get notified when we upload new episodes. I almost said movies and videos before episodes came out of my mouth. Um, don't forget to follow us on all the social media so that, again, you can keep up with us. And we will see you guys in the next episode. So, bye.
Goodbye.